Hey guys, it's Dean. Have you ever just clicked with a game, picked up the controller for the first time, started moving around, immediately knew this was going to be something you'd love for a long time? There are only a handful of moments you might feel that throughout your life in gaming, but every time it happens, it's special. Special moments like that are what define young gamers. I'm sure you could relate. You might not be envisioning the same games I am, but you know the feeling I'm talking about. For many gamers, the first time they felt that feeling was with at least one of the games I'm discussing in this video. Whether you followed the ever-popular and growing fandom of Mario and got to experience Mario 3 as the first true whole experience of the series, or jumped in with Sega's all-around cool and high-speed thrill fest that is Sonic 2, it's entirely possible that one of these games were your first. Not necessarily the first game you played, but the first time you were absolutely blown away by a game that you still love to this day. It's nice knowing you're not alone though. Leading up to Mario 3, there was more generated hype than possibly any other game since. Movies giving the West the first real look at the game. Commercials highlighting the mustachioed Italians' dominance. Everyone's grandma talking about buying Mario on Nintendo for us, even though they didn't even know how to turn on TV. The hype was undoubtedly real. Hype that was seemingly impossible to live up to, but Sweet Green on a Bowser didn't live up to that hype. A favorite amongst favorites. A game that shaped an entire generation of Mario fans. A game that is undoubtedly the favorite 2D Mario for a good chunk of the fanbase, with only Mario World creating competition for that title. It's still loved and still holds up as an iconic title that's worth revisiting, or playing for the first time. And that's precisely why so many gamers still talk about playing it to this day. It helps that it's been playable on pretty much every Nintendo console. Similar to the other classic Mario titles, we have three main versions. The original NES version, the Mario All-Stars version, and the Game Boy Advance version. Do I really need to go through the differences again? NES version is outdated, no save feature, and muddied 8-bit colors. Still good for a fun time, but the other two versions do everything better in my opinion. The All-Star version is completely viable, but just as I did previously, I prefer the Game Boy Advance version. It takes the aesthetics of the All-Stars version and creates quality of life improvements that make the game more playable today than the All-Star version ever was. It also has a bunch of e-reader levels that include remade stages and power-ups from other Mario titles, as well as the addition of collectible coins in those stages. Now, obviously, I don't expect you to collect e-reader cards and play those levels on the original hardware. If you do, kudos to you. Most of you probably don't even know what an e-reader is. But if you experience the game on the Wii U, those levels come pre-installed. Also, there are ways to patch those levels in if you're of the Long John Silver type. Just Google it. While the e-reader levels are very cool, and the fact that they have collectible coins in there make the game even better and last longer, I won't be discussing them too much for this review because quite frankly, Mario 3 is such a complete game that it can hold its own even without the e-reader levels. And also because these things were so much cooler before Mario Maker came out. Still, they're a neat bonus and I do enjoy going back to them. I think it's very unfortunate that Mario 3 on Game Boy Advance didn't add collectible coins like Mario 2 did, since those extra coins are a fun bonus mission for completionists. But I'm not too bothered since the original Mario 3 without the coins was already amazing, whereas in Mario 2, the addition of the coins on the Game Boy Advance made the game a lot better in my opinion. One final note before I move on, I'll be referring to this title as Mario 3, despite the fact that it's called Super Mario Advance 4. For whatever reason, Nintendo decided to go out of order and release Mario 3 after World and Yoshi's Island in the Advance series, so it ended up with a strange title. But on the plus side, this game got the best facelift since it was made so much later in the portable console's life. Now it's time to shift over to the Speedy Hedgehog and discuss what seems to be everyone's first Sonic game. What happens when you take Sonic 1 to the United States and are asked to make it appeal to a Western audience? Speed, speed, and more speed, gotta go fast. Those Americans love that speed, am I right? I wasn't in the room when this game was being created, but I imagine that's kinda how the conversation went. Sonic 2, while containing many pure platforming moments as well, has such high-octane speed-induced moments that many fans to this day can't associate Sonic with anything other than frequently moving and quick-time reflexes. It says a lot that upon release of Sonic 2, so many people never made it past Chemical Plant Zone, but still played this game more than any other game in their library. Those first two zones in particular gave kids such an adrenaline rush that it allowed Sega to cement their legacy as the juggernaut of the 90s that it is, and created a fanbase that is a staple of the gaming community to this day. And I mean that literally. You can't release a Sonic game without a large chunk of the fanbase comparing it in some fashion to Sonic 2. The entire Boost Formula 3D games seem like they were designed off of what players enjoyed in Sonic 2. Sonic 2, I'd argue, was the game that cemented why Sonic was better than Mario for a lot of fans, and that foundation still holds up to this day. There isn't a series that exists that contains a fanbase as overwhelmingly passionate and simultaneously toxic as Sonic does. I have a theory as to why that is, although it's probably better discussed in a future video. But Sonic was literally built to appeal to kids to think they're better than Mario fans for liking Sonic. The Sonic fanbase, from the start, was a group of individuals meant to get into Mario fans' faces and tell them why they're babies for liking Mario. At least that's the way I remember it. And that's the way Sega marketed it. And over the years, you've seen that same toxicity leak out in every generation. There's tons of complaining about minor details that any other game series wouldn't have batted an eye at. And all of it branched from Sonic 2, a game so great it created a whole subculture of passionate gamers, for better or for worse. Most recently, the game was re-released with Sonic Origins, and although I'm basing this review off of the mobile Christian Whitehead port because I thought it would be more or less the same as the Origins version, based off what I'm seeing online, the Origins version isn't quite as refined yet. Hopefully that's fixed fairly soon, because there's at least one quality of life improvement that I think would make the Origins version the overwhelmingly definitive edition. But for now, I'll be discussing the game from the lens of someone playing it on Android, albeit with a controller rather than touch controls. Unlike Sonic 1 and Sonic CD, my first experience with Sonic 2 was on the original hardware. I remember having a neighbor down the street who owned a Sega Genesis 3 that I traded my Super Nintendo with either permanently or temporarily. It was great too because he had Sonic 2, 3, and Knuckles, so I got the full experience, along with Comix Zone, still one of my favorite games, and Echo the Dolphin, a game which I wonder why on earth I even enjoyed at the time. When it came to Sonic 2, I was very much the little brother. I experienced most of the game playing as Tails. I still thought it was a ton of fun. Maybe it's because we were young, but I don't remember being as pointless back then as it would be if I played it today. One of my favorite memories was making it all the way to Oil Ocean Zone and spawning with one life remaining at a checkpoint, and running forward across a collapsible bridge as Tails while my older brother wasn't paying attention, causing him to basically have to jump off the cliff and accept a game over, with no continues remaining. We never made it that far again. And actually, that's probably still the furthest I ever made it on Sonic 2 while playing on the original version, with the archaic lack of saves. Albeit, I've never tried to go back to it since I was a kid. I assume I'd get through it easily if I really wanted to give it a shot though. In recent years, it's been all about the Android port for me. I've replayed the game quite a few times. It's always such a treat and generally an easy experience with minimal deaths until the endgame. And even then, I still love it and take long enough breaks between the playthroughs so the endgame can still give me a sense of frustration I've grown to love. Honestly, I still can't figure out how to beat the Death Egg without waiting for it to jump up and land. I've watched a ton of videos on how people do it online, but sure enough, anytime I reach it, I get killed as soon as I make an attempt. But I'm getting ahead of myself. The point is, I'm no stranger to Sonic 2, no matter which version I'm playing. Unlike Mario 3, a game which I originally completely skipped on the NES when I was a kid, and barely played on the Super Nintendo. In fact, I don't even own the Game Boy Advance version. Actually, while starting the series, I was trying to figure out how I had so much nostalgia and so many fond memories of Mario 3, since I couldn't pinpoint when and where I played it as a kid. I'm guessing I played on All-Stars, but I was too young to know it was Mario 3 and not one of the other Mario games on there. There's always one memory that sticks out to me from the games in the All-Stars versions. Mario 1 was that victory peck on the cheek by Peach. Mario 2 was Peach flying. Mario World was Yoshi, and for Mario 3, believe it or not, it was that shoe power-up. Such an obscure moment of the game, but it was so unique that during my long hiatus from the game, from ages roughly 5 to maybe 15 or 16, that it was the thing that I had remembered the most. In fact, when I replayed the game so many years later, I was disappointed when I realized the shoe was basically only in one level. Nostalgia is a hell of a drug. I did, however, buy it on NES in my late teens and speedrun the game. It was around the same time I was speedrunning Super Mario Bros. 1 on Wii and Super Mario World on my Game Boy Advance. So naturally, when my brother bought an NES in the late 2000s, I went and picked up Mario 3 and an extra controller. Why the extra controller? Well, it's very simple. One of the most enjoyable multiplayer experiences I remember was Mario Bros. And I can't believe Nintendo never released it with any of the new Super Mario Bros. Series as a multiplayer option, despite the fact that every freaking Game Boy Advance game that even said the word Mario had it packaged in. See, in Mario 3, if you were playing 2 players, you had the option to enter a traditional battle against the second player in the old school Mario Bros. Title, but with better controls than the arcade version, I believe. For that reason, I've always associated the original Mario Bros. Arcade title with Mario 3, and it's the reason I didn't discuss the multiplayer aspect of it in previous videos for Mario Advance. I'm willing to bet most of you didn't even get to experience a 4-player Mario Bros. Battle on Game Boy Advance with link cables. Believe it or not, it was a lot of fun. The objectives were fairly simple: collect the most coins or kill the most baddies. but it had that Mario mayhem and charm that you'd come to expect from a 4-player Mario game. I remember the screenshot on the back of the Game Boy Advance box showing Mario Bros. In 4 players and just wishing I had 4 Game Boy Advance and link cables so I could play it with my siblings. And I so wish there was a small remake of this multiplayer game because I think it could be a lot of fun. Personally, I think Nintendo should release some kind of Battle Royale version a la Mario 35 or Tetris 99. But once again, I digress. In recent years, revisiting Mario 3 has consisted of me playing the Wii U version so I could play the e-reader levels, or patching those into a ROM. Either way, it's all about the Game Boy Advance version for this game for me, and I'll replay it every few years along with the other classic Mario games. Frankly, Mario 3 is the first game in the head-to-head that I think visually competes with the Sonic counterpart. It has such a delightful art style and setting, specifically on the Game Boy Advance where the colors pop and all around give you that warm fuzzy feeling you'd come to expect with a classic Mario title. The varying themes and enemy design really make you feel like you're on an adventure through the Mushroom Kingdom. The addition of an overworld appropriately structures the game and allows you to know what to visually expect as you play through the game. There's just so much done right here from a visual standpoint that any complaint I make would be a nitpick. The music complements the visuals and themes flawlessly too, especially in the overworld where everything is perfectly synchronized. Mario 3 still only has a handful of tracks, but that limited amount allows each one of them to be an iconic melody that stands out in the minds of many to this day. However, if you want to talk iconic, Sonic 2's music is some of the most memorable in all of gaming. But I do believe Sonic 2's music is the most iconic of the classic Sonic games, whereas Mario 3's isn't necessarily as iconic as Mario 1's or World's. But that's honestly a totally subjective point of view. Regardless, I think Sonic 2 strikes gold in every zone. I wouldn't even know which ones to pinpoint as my favorite. Hilltop Zone is one that always makes me excited to play through the acts. There's obviously the Emerald Hill theme and even the introduction to Wing Fortress Zone that finds a way to make you know you're at the end of the game strictly with the powerful music you're listening to. I know it's Sonic and the music is always expected to be good, but Sonic 2's music is very likely the best of the classic era. I may even prefer it to Mario Worlds, and those soundtracks basically flow through me. And Sonic 2's art style, themes, level design, badniks are all a visual treat. While I do think Sonic CD and 3 are overall better looking games, Sonic 2 isn't that far behind. I enjoy progressing through the acts and seeing how each new zone takes our blue hedgehog into a new environment. I especially love how the backgrounds change depending on your elevation. It sort of gives you a perspective on how large the stage is, while also giving you a reference to keep track of your location. Sonic 2 and Mario 3 both have varying approaches to their music and aesthetics, and yet somehow, both of them seem to appeal to me almost equally. I knew when I started this series that it would be very hard to compare the visuals and music between these two series, but this video in particular is probably the hardest one to choose a preference because they're both so good. Sonic 2 has the same progression as basically every other game in the classic series. You go through multiple zones, most of which contain 2 acts, with a boss battle at the end of the act. I'm a big fan of the boss battles in this game. They're more unique than Sonic 1's and about on par with CD's. Each act contains multiple routes that you can take, which is key to not only the replayability of this game, but also allows for multiple styles of play. In general, the game will reward you for taking a more difficult path, usually towards the high ground, instead of just holding right. Oftentimes, if you take a second to time a good jump, or go through a bit of platforming, you'll be rewarded with longer stretches of bursts of speed for your trouble. Whereas if you try to take the easy road ahead of you, you might be punished with a painstakingly slow water section you'd have to get through. There are literally decades worth of gamers that will talk about how bad the water sections are, and how easy it is to get crushed and die in certain areas, and how there are moments where the game will betray you for doing what's expected of Sonic and going fast. And a younger version of me might have agreed with you, but the aspect of Sonic 2 that most differentiates it from Sonic 1 and CD is the game gives you avenues to use to avoid these hazards. Whether it's through learning to use Sonic's physics to your advantage or taking alternative routes. If I was strictly discussing the Sega Genesis version, I'd say this is probably not worth getting through due to all the quick deaths and lack of a proper save option. But in this remaster, it's much more enjoyable and really gives you a chance to replay acts and learn how to overcome seemingly impossible points of stages. I get that it's classic game design at its fullest, where a game expects you to die a bunch of times to learn how to beat the levels. But this is a classic game after all, so what do you expect from it? Besides, with the updated save system, I think it definitely holds up in today's market. Well, most of it anyway. You have a great start with Emerald Hill, and the training wheels come off right after that in the high-speed chemical plant zone. Aquatic Ruins is fairly generic, but has a unique enough boss battle to make it memorable. Casino Night is a setting so iconic that it's repeated to this day in almost every Sonic title. Hilltop introduces a fresh mechanic with the seesaws, Mystic Cave has the entrance to Hidden Palace and the whole awesome story around it being finished in the remake, and the infamous Pit of Death leading to it is the cherry on top. Oil Ocean Zone gets too much hate in my opinion. I think it has just enough of that late game difficulty I'd expect from a classic game and a super unique setting. Which leaves us with what I believe is the endgame. Metropolis Zone, Sky Chase Zone, Wing Fortress Zone, and Death Egg Zone. Let's skip Metropolis for now. Sky Chase Zone is a glorified cutscene, and I don't mean that negatively at all. You're up in the sky with tails flying you towards Robotnik in a setting which really stretches the severity of the moment. You're literally being carried to the climax of the game. And the transition to Wing Fortress Zone is just perfect. The powerful theme kicks in and you're left on this giant ship trying to figure out how to not fall down and plummet to your death. The unfortunate thing is that you will most definitely plummet to your death because this act is hard as heck. There's an easy shortcut you could take to make the stage a bit more bearable, but to put things into perspective, I think I spend more time on Wing Fortress Zone than most of the rest of the game combined. And it doesn't help that it's quickly followed by Mecha Sonic and Death Egg, which you have to defeat with no rings. Quite frankly, I'm not ashamed to admit that I had to use guides to beat them the first time. They epitomize the definition of unfair final bosses. I applaud anyone that managed to beat Sonic 2 in the 90s without using any guides, because getting through this game without any saves or knowledge on how to progress seems like it was impossible back then. I mentioned earlier that as a kid my brothers and I never made it past Oil Ocean Zone. It's because that's just how games were played back then. You'd keep playing and losing and starting over. There's probably only a percentage of gamers that bought Sonic 2 when it released on Genesis and made it to the Death Egg, and even smaller a percentage that beat the game. And despite that, there are so many people that will say Sonic 2 was their favorite game growing up. Gaming was just different then. Luckily that's no longer the case, and with the Android port you'll beat the game if you put in enough time, and maybe look up how to beat Mecha Sonic and Death Egg. However, I need to backtrack for a second. Metropolis Zone. I've been wanting to start a YouTube channel for a long time, and amongst many other talking points I want to discuss, one of them is the hatred for Metropolis Zone. Honestly, I don't understand it. Like sure, it's 3 acts instead of 2, but the first 2 acts aren't even that bad and it doesn't even really get that difficult until halfway through Act 3. Maybe I've always liked it because it's littered with Pokemon. What? You don't think it's clearly Scyther, Krabby, and Staryu? Come on now. This trio, and the giant screws you run on are probably responsible for all the hatred Metropolis Zone gets, which I never understood. In pretty much every other area of Sonic, fans will go on about how getting hit and dying, and having to redo an area is all part of the Sonic experience. I'm not sure why Metropolis in particular doesn't get those same excuses. Believe it or not, it's okay to get hit in a Sonic game, because unlike other platformers, if you're holding a ring, you won't die. It shouldn't take that long after getting hit to figure out how to get around Scyther and to avoid Krabby altogether. Or to just keep running and pray Staryu doesn't stop you. And guess what? If they do hit you, grab your rings and either kill them or run away. This is Sonic. Stop dwelling and keep moving forward. You want to complain about a zone? Complain about Mystic Cave Zone. It has no reason to have as many stopping points and death traps as it does. It's not fun, it has no speed. It's like someone ripped it out of Sonic 1 and threw it smack dab in the middle of Sonic 2. It's easily my least favorite zone of the game, and I'm surprised it doesn't get more hate. In fact, the only thing I hate more than Mystic Cave Zone are the bonus stages. It should come as no surprise by now that I'm not a fan of trying to collect 50 rings in a Sonic game, just to enter a stupid broken bonus stage that is hardly winnable. It's been a consistent theme in the series so far. This playthrough was my first true attempt at beating the bonus stages in this game. I got about 4 gems and just gave up. It's too time consuming, and that's with cheesing my way to the bonus stages with a stage select given to you in the remaster after you beat the game. Luckily, Sonic Origins has a mechanism that involves collecting coins throughout the game. These coins allow you to immediately repeat a bonus stage if you fail. If you have a ton of coins to burn, I think it's worth going for full completion of this title in the Origins version only. Otherwise, while the reward of Super Sonic is super cool, it's also super not worth the agony to play with a character that essentially ruins the experience by breaking the game. But credit to Origins, the coin factor alone probably makes it the definitive version of Sonic 2, assuming all other aspects are equal to the Android port. Man, I don't know why I thought it was a good idea to discuss another game with Sonic 2, let alone a game of the caliber of Mario 3. Mario 3 contains the first instance of a true overworld in a Mario game. This is basically the foundation of what you see in future 2D titles, as well as what would eventually become hub worlds like Peach's Castle and Delfino Plaza. While future overworlds and hub worlds do give you a bit more freedom and flexibility, Mario 3's hub world is very much linear in a world-by-world basis, meaning you won't move on without beating the Koopaling at the end of each world. There are obviously secrets which allow you to cheese the game and warp further along in the game, but those were basically put in place since there was no save feature in the original title. The nice thing, however, is you don't necessarily have to play every level in each world to complete the game. There are many moments where a route may be split if a stage is too hard to complete. You can try the other paths in hopes that it's a bit easier. That being said, I think Mario 3 is a game worth going for full completion, because full completion entails just beating every level since there are no collectibles. So while you can move in alternate paths, or avoid Hammer Bros on the maps, or use a cloud power-up to completely skip a stage, I don't think it's worth it. Along the way, you'll find a plethora of bonus rooms that contain what's essentially a microgame that allows you to gain items to help you on your way. These items include the aforementioned cloud that allows you to skip a stage, our typical mushroom, fire flower, and starman, but you also might get a frog suit that makes swimming a breeze, a Hammer Bros suit that'll let you kill basically anything in your path, the super leaf that gives you the raccoon tail and allows you to fly with relative ease, the Tanuki suit which does the same thing as a super leaf but also gives you a ground pound by turning you into a stone, and you'll receive a handful of P-Wings throughout the game, which are useful in a bind and allow you to basically fly over an entire level to the end of it because it's too difficult. So use those wisely. There are a few more items too, and one of the main reasons Mario 3 is so fondly remembered by people to this day is because of those power-ups. I believe this game has one of, if not the most in the Mario series, and that makes the game feel fresh and the replayability higher. However, there are a lot of similarities between this game and the previous Mario games. Around World 5 or 6, you'll notice a stark increase in difficulty, and maybe even start seeing the game over screen every now and then. The game doesn't necessarily get harder as a whole, rather as you progress, you'll bump into a few levels with moments in them that are seemingly there specifically to slow you down. So while you might struggle in a specific level, the next one might actually be kind of easy. And if not, you might get a game over, and that'll reset the world you're in and allow you to revisit the item houses again and maybe get an item to help you pass those difficult moments. Every world has a Boom Boom battle and an airship stage followed by a fight against one of the Koopalings, making their first appearance in this game. While this may seem a bit repetitive, and to some extent it is, the battles and stages leading up to them are changed up just enough to give a feeling of freshness. The airship stages are a really good test of the player's ability, and every time you beat one and manage to defeat the Koopaling, you really feel like you've earned moving on to the next world. One thing to note that I always found pretty funny, some of the kings of the castles look like they're a variation of Mario. Either Old Mario, Viking Mario, Turban Mario, or Spanish Mario. It always made me chuckle. Also, I think it's really cool that the kings are transformed into characters from other games before you save them. Like a Cobrat, or a Dino Rhino, or heck, even a Yoshi and frickin' Donkey Kong Jr. of all things. It's a nice touch. The final Bowser battle is pretty neat because it highlights Bowser's brain power, or lack thereof, and strength all in one. Once again, you can't physically hurt him because he's way stronger than you. Rather, you make him attack you until he ruins the stage and causes his own demise. Not the most difficult boss battle in the world, but I'd take this over Death Egg any day of the week. In fact, I'd take the whole endgame of Mario 3 over Sonic 2. The stages are a lot harder, but it's not the type of difficulty curve to make you wonder what the designers were even thinking. It's a good end to the adventure that starts off, quite frankly, way too easy. If there's one major flaw that I've always found with Mario 3 that I feel gets glossed over way too often, it's while there are a ton of stages, 90 not including the bonuses, and they have a variety of designs and settings to keep them fresh and memorable, the fundamental issue with most of these levels is that they're way too short. Especially in the early game, but you'll still see it in the later game as well. Some of the stages are finished with a handful of jumps and holding right in less than 20 seconds. It shouldn't take me longer to watch a victory screen at the end of the stage and move through the overworld than it does to play a level. It really makes you appreciate the checkpoint system that's in Super Mario World and all the other Sonic games. I realize it's likely a product of its time, but for a game as large and varied as Mario 3 is, having these short burst levels quickly end before you even start to feel like you got a proper chance to experience them is one of its biggest flaws. And there you have it, two games that are seemingly flawless in about 90% of the design, brought down ever so slightly by a weak 10%. Before I choose a winner, I wanted to recap that in my first episode I didn't really enjoy Sonic 1 and Mario 1 all that much, but I gave Mario 1 the edge. In my second episode, I felt that experiencing Mario 2 as a collectathon and Sonic CD as an exploration game with Tails made them both better as a result, and I gave the slight edge to Sonic CD. In both of those videos, I was covering games that I don't feel super attached to. Like, sure, they're games I loved growing up, but they're not in the discussion of my favorite games of all time like these two games are. If anything, reviewing these two games reminded me how much I loved them and made me that much more excited to review their sequels, because I consider those two to be the top two games in both Mario and Sonic Classic series combined. But before I get there, we need to end this video, and as much as it pains me, I have to pick one of these two games to define as a clear winner. Sonic 2 is amazing. It sets the groundwork for all future Sonic titles to build off of, even though many of them did so poorly. It's an excellent blueprint and in my opinion the first time Sonic Team got the game right. However, when I compare it to Mario 3, it feels so much more like a total and complete experience than Sonic 2 does. While Mario 3 has its flaws, there isn't much that was added to it in Mario World to really advance the experience. Whereas I feel like there was a lot more added to Sonic 3 in Sonic 3 and Knuckles, and that shows how much more room for improvement Sonic 2 had. Using that logic, I think I'd have to choose Mario 3 as the winner of this video. Despite the fact that I absolutely adore both of these games, and probably forgive their flaws more than most other people do, it's pretty clear to me at least that Mario 3 feels more like a fully complete game that's realized its potential. Maybe it's because Mario 3 is the third game in the series and Sonic 2 is only the second installment, so it's already progressed beyond simply making it like the first game, but better. I'm not sure, but the reality is I have to choose a winner for this video, and my gut is telling me it's Mario 3. During this head-to-head series, I tend to skip a lot of talking points and cut a lot of corners to save time and avoid discussing things that have been discussed to death on YouTube. And despite that, it's clear that the more passionate I am about the game, the more I go on about it. So it's only natural that discussing these two games took as long as it did. It'll be interesting to see how much longer my next video is. Super Mario World is probably my favorite game of all time from a nostalgia perspective, and Sonic 3 and Knuckles is not far behind it. I know I've thrown the word perfect around quite a bit in this video, but the next two games are near flawless in my eyes. So make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe, and maybe even visit my Patreon to show me support and stay in the loop. Until next time, thanks for watching, Dean out.